Hi everyone, in this recitation, I would like to talk about event-driven programming using HTML and JavaScript. In this recitation, I will introduce how to use JavaScript and HTML to build up a graphical user interface and collect the inputs and calculate the outputs for some real-world event. Okay, so first task is to build up a graphical user interface using JavaScript and HTML. This is the result which we want to build up in this recitation. Later, I will teach you how to just add each component of this website. In this website, the first line is about the company name. Next is the sales. This company has two divisions, Eastern Division and the Western Division. What we want to do is to using two text boxes to collect the sales for 2019. The user for this web page can just enter the number for the sales for two divisions in the text boxes. And then once we calculate, click the button calculate total or calculate 2019 total, with the result for 2019 total sales can be presented in the third text box. Then what we want to do is to estimate the potential sales for 2020. We have two choices with two radio buttons. First is high, which means that the estimated sales for 2020 is higher than that of 2019. If we choose low, we think that the estimated sales for 2020 is lower than that of 2019. If we have already clicked one of the radio button, the calculation result for 2020 expected sales will be presented in the last text box. So this is what we want to do within the recitation 7. We have two tasks. The first is to just build up the graphical user interface like what I presented here. And next task is to add the necessary JavaScript code to finish the computation process. Okay, so we also need to just add a new HTML file, which is called gui.html. Okay. And we also add some basic structure for our web page. We can name it as event-driven programming. Okay, so this is the title. And the first line is about the company name. Okay, so you can just use H1 to add a company name. Okay, so it should be Parallax. Motors. Okay, so this is the first line, and next is about the sales. Okay, so it should be H2. Okay, so the next part is how to just add a text box to our web page. What we need to use right here is the input tag. Okay, so we also need another P represents for a paragraph, and the text is Eastern Division. Okay, after Eastern Division, you can use the input tag. Okay, so for the input tag, the first parameter is type. We have different values for the input type, which are text or buttons or radio buttons. The type of text represents for a text box. If we add a button here, this will be a button inserted. If we add a radio here, this input tag will become a radio button. Okay, so the first parameter is type, and next parameter is ID. ID is the identity for this input tag, which can be also like a text box or a button or radio button. So the identity is something that we use to differentiate between different inputs tag. Okay. So ID right here we can just name it as Eastern. Okay. And also we have some parameter like onChange. OnChange is a parameter used when the value or the input to this text box is changed. What we need to do for the later operation. And also we need another text box for Western division. And also the tag should be input. The type should be kept the same, which is text, and ID should be changed to Western. And also you can just add a onChange event. If you want to know more usage for the input tag, you can just come to the website which I have already introduced before, which is the HTML tutorial. And within this, you can just search for the tag list. You can just write input here. So you can get the usage for the input tag. The different input types are as follows, including button, checkbox, color, date, datetime, local. What we need to use for this web page is just a radio button and also text. Okay. So and also you can see the attributes for this tag and its values. Okay, get back to our web page. The next job is to just add 2 buttons, right? So we have 2 ways to add a button to our web page. The first is the button tag. For the button tag, it has 2 parts. First is the beginning and next is the closing part. And for the button tag, we have different attributes for it. First is also the identity. We can name it as total sales, okay? And second is onClick. I will explain the onClick parameter later, okay? And within the beginning and the closing part of the button tag, we can add some text to remind the users what they need to do to use this button. It should be calculate total, okay? And also we have another method to add a button. The next method is also use the input tag. For the type parameter, it should be button, okay? Also the identity, because the identity should be different between different inputs or some different buttons. So I just name it as total sales 2, okay? Also, we can just add another parameter, which is the size of this button. We can use 20 for the size. Because for the button tag, it has the beginning part and also the closing part. Within the closing and the beginning part, we can add the text. But for the input tag, it just has one part. So how we add the text to this button? We can use the value. And also the text to remind the users is calculate 2019 total. Okay. So this is the two methods of inserting a button to our web page. And also you can use the p tag represents for paragraph to just build up a great structure for our web page. Okay. Next, what we need to add is the estimate for 2020, right? Oh, no. What we need to add is the third text box, 2019 total sales. Okay. Also a p tag. $2019 total sales. There is a text box here, so we also need another input tag. Type is also text. The ID should be different, right? ID equal to sales 2019 and unchanged. We can just leave this unchanged parameter here. After the third text box, we need to add two radio buttons within one line, which means that we need two input tag within one paragraph. It's also a p tag. The text is estimate for 2020. Okay. So first is input. Sorry. Because what we want to use is radio button, so the type of the input should be radio. Okay. And also we have an ID. We can use hi here. And on click event, we leave it as blank. Another input type is also radio. ID is low. And on click event is left blank. After the radio button, we also need some text. The first is high, second is low. Okay. There is one thing which is very important that I need to mention here. Because some of the radio buttons will be grouped together, which means that once we click high, we cannot click low. Once we click low, we cannot click high. So how to realize these functions? How to realize the conflict between two radio buttons? We need to add another parameter in the input tag, which is called name. The name is very different from the ID parameter. For different input tag, the ID should be different. But for a group of radio buttons, the name should be the same to make the conflicts between different radio buttons. Okay? So the name here is estimate. And also for the second radio button, the name should also be radio button. Oh, sorry, estimate. Okay, let me repeat once again. If we want to just make the conflict between a group of radio buttons. The identity for the radio buttons should be different, but the name for the group of radio buttons should be the same. Okay. So this is the radio buttons, and next is the last text box, 2020 expected sales. Okay. Another p tag. Sorry. (2020 expected sales). And also an input tag. Type is text. ID equal to sales 2020. And we leave the unchanged parameter equal to blank. Okay. So this is the task for building up a basic graphical user interface for our web page. We can, if you follow my instructions to write the code, and then you will get the same graphical user interface like this one. Okay, so we can just test our graphical user interface. So the components are all here, and also we can edit the style for this web page. We can use the style tag. Within, you also need to remember the style tag can only be added within the head tag. So for the style part, first is body. Body should be background color, which is yellow. And for the paragraph, the style is font size equal to 20 pixels. Okay, so this is the style setting for our web page. Okay, so we can see here. You can just change to what you like. Okay, so till now we have already finished our first task, which is to build up a graphical user interface for our web page. The next task is to add the computation code for this web page. Because right now we just add the necessary components, including some buttons, radio buttons, and text boxes for our web page. We have not added the JavaScript code for the computing process. So this is our second task. So where should we add some necessary computation code within our web page? During the last recitation, what I talked about before is that if we want to add the JavaScript code into our web page, we need to use a script tag, right? But for this recitation, the things will be a little bit different. Where we need to add the computation JavaScript code is within the input tag. Right here, you can see we can see a button tag, and then we leave the parameter onClick for blank. The onClick parameter means that once we click this button, the code within these two quotations will be operated, and then the web page will show the result for the computation result. Okay, so within the two quotations, we need to add the necessary computation JavaScript code right here. So for the JavaScript part, and also we need the variable keyword. The first parameter is called total 2019. So what is the computation for the total sales in 2019. It's very easy. We just need to add the sales of Eastern Division and the sales of the Western Division, right? And because the values for the Eastern Division and the Western Division are all entered by the users, what we need to do here is to collect the values within the text boxes, right? So how to do this? It is very easy. We can just use the ID of the text box which we want to collect the value from. For the Eastern Division, the ID is Eastern, so we just write Eastern here. And then we just add a dot. After dot, we use a value. So this text, Eastern.value, is a function that we use to collect the input from the users. The input is the value of this Eastern Division text box. So we just use Eastern.value to collect the value from the first text box. And also for the second text box, the value should be Western.value, right? So the calculation for the total sales for 2019 is just to add the two components together. But sometimes we may face with a problem is that some inputs to this text box will not be the value, will not be the number. So we need to add a number function to just filter the input. Okay. So we add a number function to filter the input. So this is the first line. The second line is to present the computation result to the third text box, which is the sales 2019 text box. So how to do this? The process will be very easy. You can just use the ID for the third text box dot value to set the computation result, which is sales 2019 dot value equal to our variable total 2019. Okay, so this is very easy, right? This is a code for the computation for the total sales for 2019. First, we use Eastern.value and Western.value to collect the two inputs from the two text boxes. And then we add them together, and then we assign the computation result variable to the third text box, which is sales 2019. Okay, we save our code and then get back to test our web page and function. We can just add 2000 here and 1000 here. And we click calculate total. Our function is correct. The third text box is presented with the result for computation, which is 3000. Okay. So this is our first function to add up the total sales for two divisions together. Once we have already get the computation result for 2019 total sales, the next subtask is to estimate the potential expected sales for 2020. We have two choices for the estimation. First is higher and second is lower. So what we need to do later is once we click high, and then the fourth text box will present the result, which is 30% higher than the total sales of 2019. If we click low here, and the 2020 expected sales text box will present a computation result which is 10% lower than the total sales of 2019. So we need to add the computation code both for the first read button and the second read button. For the first read button, the JavaScript code should also be added into the onClick parameter within the two quotations. Okay, so just click enter to leave some space for our JavaScript code. And do not forget the semicolon after each line. Okay, so the computation is very easy, right? If we click the high, then the variable total 2020 should be the 1.3 times the total sales of 2019. Because the total sales for 2019 has been presented within the third text box, which is total sales, sales 2019 text box. So we can just collect the value there using the id dot value. So it should be sales 2019 dot value. And also we can just assign the value to the result text box, the fourth text box, which has an ID of sales 2020. Sorry, I made a mistake before. You need to revise it. So sales 2020 dot value equal to total 2020. Okay. And for the second text box, for the second radio button, the computation should be the same. The only difference is just the ratio. The ratio is 0.9. Okay. Okay, so we can get back to test our second function. We add them together, and once we click high, the 2020 expected sales text box presents the result for 3,900. And once we click low, the expected sales for 2020 is 2,700. Okay, so I think this is all for our recitation 7. We have two tasks for our recitation 7. First is to build up a graphical user interface. And second is to add the necessary computation JavaScript code to our graphical user interface. Okay. For recitation 7, the attendance question is, which county does your TA live in? The answer to this question is Piscataway. Repeat once again. The answer for the attendance question is Piscataway. I have seen the responses to the 7 recitation attendance record forms. And it's clear that after recitation 4, the submission is lower than the submission for recitation 1 to 4. I figured out that it may be due to the exam 1. Maybe you are busy with exam 1 and don't have time to watch my recitation videos. But I hope that you can finish the watching for all the recorded recitation videos because during the lectures, the professor can only talk about some basic concepts of our course of the programming. But during the recitation, I will teach you some real world and useful coding and programming skills. I think my recitation is valuable for all of you. And I really hope that you can watch all my recorded recitation videos. I will keep all the attendance record form open for the last day of this semester. And you can just watch the recorded video at any time you want. Okay? Don't forget to submit the attendance record. Okay? Bye.